Hi, my name is Adam Cox. I'm a clinical hypnotherapist, phobia expert, founder of phobiaguru.com, and known as the UK's leading expert at eliminating phobias quickly, so quickly in fact that quite often I can eliminate a phobia in just a single session. Today we're talking about the fear of heights, also known as acrophobia. Now, the fear of heights is actually quite a common fear, with about 1 in 20 adults actually experiencing a fear of heights. The fear of heights comes, as most phobias, a learned response. You're only born with two fears, the fear of loud noises and the fear of falling. So this is an unusual phobia in the sense that it has roots to one of the very few fears that we're actually born with, which is the fear of falling. So the fear of heights isn't really the fear of heights itself, but what tends to happen is that when people are at a height, they start imagining quite often what it would be like to fall or get too close to the edge, and then they have effectively a anticipation reaction of thinking, what would it be like to fall? And it's the idea of falling that actually creates the anxiety response, not the heights itself, because you can have people that don't have a fear of heights that can be very high up. It's just that they don't unconsciously consider the possibility of falling. For many people with a fear of heights, there tends to be certain places or certain contexts that elevate the fear even more. For example, you could have a fear of heights and be very high up in a hotel, but so long as you weren't near the windows, people with a fear of heights are normally okay because they're surrounded by what seems to be very stable ground. But if they were even on a fairly small ladder, maybe just a few meters up, that would actually create quite a high level of anxiety because they can see the distance between where they are and the floor. So a fear of heights tends to be very contextual. There are certain things like glass elevators, for example, or more often than not, glass bridges that you get in quite modern buildings. That would be a nightmare for someone that has a fear of heights. Now, I actually had this fear when I was in my childhood. It was one of several fears that I had, which is why I do what I do now. I had a fear of heights, a fear of public speaking, and I had social anxiety, so I had a fear of people. How I finally got over my fear of heights was doing the very things that I do with clients all the time now, is change their neurology, their beliefs, the actual thoughts that are connected with certain stimulus. So I was able to go from a situation where I couldn't be near the edge of a fairly low level, let's say 1-2 stories up building, for example, or certainly I couldn't climb a ladder, to then being able to do a skydive at about 12,000 feet. So it is possible to eliminate this fear of heights. The symptoms, and these are quite interesting. The fear of heights quite often creates an anxiety reaction around the chest and the gut area. Quite often, the heart rate increases, breathing rate increases, so it becomes more rapid. There tends to be tension, sometimes shaking. It's a horrible experience because it can lead to quite severe panic attacks. The implications for people that have a fear of heights is that there's many things that they can't do. So a lot of recreational activities tend to involve things being high up. So a lot of viewpoints, for example, in cities. If you think here in London, for example, you've got the London Eye, where you can get panoramic views of the city. Someone with a fear of heights wouldn't do that, for example. You also have one of the tallest buildings in Europe here in London called the Shard. And you've got a viewing platform called the View from the Shard. And again, these are the kind of things that you wouldn't do if you had a fear of heights. So it reduces the likelihood of seeing certain recreational type of things. And there are also certain events where you might need to use a ladder to repair something. Now, someone with a fear of heights certainly wouldn't do those kind of things. The implications in terms of avoiding that kind of stuff can lean to having to rely on other people much more than you would want to avoid certain social situations that might involve heights. It can cross over to other phobias, such as the fear of flying, because typically if you have a fear of heights, these people will definitely be away from the window seats or if they are in the window seats, they'll have the actual visors shut so they're not looking outside, because again, it can create that anxiety reaction. The solutions. Now, the solutions to the fear of heights, this is one of the fears that I've had probably more, more frequently. It's certainly in the top 5 phobias that I deal with, because effectively it gets in the way of people living their lives. So quite often I'll work with them one-on-one and really hone in on their specific triggers. So you get discrepancies between fear of heights. Some people are fine, for example, being on aeroplanes, but they're not fine if they're on a glass elevator, for example, or a see-through bridge, or see-through floors and things like that. So it's about honing in to the specific criteria and stimulus and triggers of an individual, and then breaking those patterns down so they don't. It's not possible to create the same level of anxiety that it was before. My goal is to get those level anxieties from 10 out of 10, 9 out of 10, 8 out of 10, all the way to like 1 or 2 out of 10. So they're able to do the things that they couldn't do before. Prior to COVID, when I had my practice in Harley Street, I would actually arrange for clients to do the view from the Shard or the London Eye on the afternoon after the session, so they can actually prove to themselves that their fear has completely changed and they're able to do something they didn't think they could do. There's 2 main ways in which people work with me now. One is that I've created a 7-day course which can be downloaded. So you hear recordings that I've done having worked with hundreds of phobics. The other way is that people can work with me one-on-one. So there is going to be a link nearby, probably in the show notes, that you can book a free 30-minute consultation call with me. You can ask questions about the process, what I do, how I do it, and I'll be asking questions about how you actually experience your specific phobia, the fear of heights. Some people, for example, can experience the fear of heights even on the ground just by looking up at a very tall building. It kind of creates that feeling of dizziness. Fear of heights or kind of this specific fear is not vertigo. Vertigo is more of a spinning sensation that you get, but it can cross over. Sometimes people can experience that sensation even if they're not in a high place or near to the edge of something. So if you are interested in working with me one-on-one, click that link to book a free 30-minute consultation call. I look forward to working with you. If you know anyone with a fear of heights, please share this video directly to them. And if you have any questions or comments about fear of heights, please put them in the comment section and I'll reply as soon as I'm aware of them. Hope this video has been useful, and I'm sure I'll be able to help you if you do get in contact. Take care.